Welcome everyone to SCORE Southwest Missouri Tuesdays at 2 webinar series. This is Interview Strategies for Successful Hiring. My name is Katie Pattison. I am the workshop chair for SCORE Southwest Missouri and the branch manager of the Schweitzer Brentwood branch of the Springfield Greene County Library. We also have with us Mary Overby, who is the chapter admin for SCORE Southwest Missouri and owner of Borealis Consulting. And we'll introduce our presenter here in just a moment. Before we start that, I want to give you a little introduction to SCORE. So SCORE is a nonprofit business organization that is here for you for the life of your business. We have mentoring and resources to support you from idea to exit. It was founded in 1964 as a resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration, or the SBA. Our mission is to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. Our vision is that every person has the support necessary to thrive as a small business owner. And one of our core values is that our clients' success is our success. So you're going to see our mentors and all of our volunteers working to make sure that you're successful. We do everything we can to help you be successful in your business. So there are a few different ways we help businesses. One is providing free business advice and mentoring, offering low or no cost business training, just like the workshop that you're in right at this moment. And we also, you may not be aware of, have quite a number of free business templates and resources online that are accessible. All of this is possible through the effort of our volunteers nationwide. There are over 10,000 SCORE volunteers serving clients in over 1,500 communities. So let's dig a little bit deeper into those SCORE resources, just so you know. So mentoring. This is one of the big things that SCORE does. If you're aspiring or existing entrepreneurs can get free confidential business advice from expert advisors committed to helping them succeed. Every SCORE chapter, including ours, offers expertise face-to-face in a local office or online using email or video conferencing. And whatever stage of business you're at, we have a mentor that can help you. Often there might be someone specialized in your type of business or your stage of business. And so all you have to do to request a mentor is go to swmissouri.score.org and click that request a mentor button. We'll take a look at your needs and match you up with someone that fits those needs. Local business workshops and events. So we're in one right now. We have a number of facilitated events led by SCORE volunteers, national partners, subject matter experts. We do them here locally. There are also quite a number of national SCORE workshops, as well as pre-recorded webinars that you can view on the SCORE website. So you're going to get that collective wisdom of entrepreneurs in the local community, perspectives from a variety of business owners and experts. You can get some help as an emerging firm to overcome obstacles and take advantage of opportunities, and grow your business network at the same time. And I think we'll get to do more networking now that things are opening back up. So we'll look for more opportunities for that. All right, and just a little plug for what's coming up next. We actually, for our Tuesdays at 2 series, are doing every second and fourth Tuesday throughout the summer. Our next SCORE Tuesdays at 2 is Learn How to Blog for Fun and Profit. If you are interested in search engine optimization for your business, you don't want to miss this session. It's taught by Josh Lenz of 417 Local, and he will tell you how blogging can help you get your business higher up in those Google results. If you'd like to sign up for that, you can watch for the email if you're signed up for SCORE emails, or go to swmissouri.score.org and click on local workshops to see this workshop and all of the other amazing workshops we have coming up this summer. And then I just want to give a little plug for our SCORE E3 Women's Conference coming up in September. So mark your calendars, save the date for that September 15th and 16th at the Oasis Convention Center in Springfield. You can visit swmissouri.score.org and click on E3 Women's Conference for more information and early bird registration. And we're also going to be putting out a call for presenters there soon, so watch for that. And then finally, I mentioned that there are a ton of resources on the SCORE website. So if you have not visited the SCORE National website, there's a huge resource library there with templates, all those live webinars, as well as recorded webinars and courses on demand. We just wrapped up a local workshop called Simple Steps for Starting Your Business, a really comprehensive workshop for anybody who is thinking about starting a business or in the process of starting a business. If you missed that, there is an on-demand course of the same name, so you can check that out on the SCORE website, plus blogs, articles, data reports, and of course you can sign up to get those SCORE newsletters in your email. And then just one more plug for volunteering with SCORE. You can really help make a difference in your community and connect with other people in the business community by becoming a SCORE volunteer. There are lots of different ways to get involved. You can become a mentor where you might be providing video, email, or telephone mentoring from your home or office or in person. You may have some expertise where you might be a good workshop presenter for us. Maybe you just want to pitch in and help on planning the conference or being on our workshop committee or something like that. Definitely reach out to us and let us know if you're interested in learning more about becoming a SCORE volunteer. Here's our contact info, so you have that handy. SCORE.org/volunteer if you're ready to go ahead and fill out that volunteer application, or you can call that number on your screen or visit swmissouri.score.org to learn more about our local opportunities. This program is sponsored by the Springfield Greene County Library. You can visit the library.org/business for access to free resources to help start and grow your business. Now I would like to introduce and turn it over to Elizabeth Hurst. Elizabeth serves as Business Development Manager for Human Resource Advantage, specializing in client engagement and satisfaction. She has a Master's of Business Administration from Drury and a Bachelor of Arts degree. Her areas of expertise include business development, account management, recruiting, communications, and strategic planning. She's worked in sales and recruiting roles in the Springfield community for over 10 years and uses strategy and communication to help businesses and individuals develop best practices to achieve their goals. And she takes great pride in building relationships on the principles of integrity and exceptional service. Elizabeth is a Springfield native. She's an active alumna of Drury University. Go Panthers, me too, Elizabeth. In addition, she is an alumna and member of the Greater Missouri Leadership Foundation, Women's Initiative Committee, St. Jude ALSAC Regional Advisory Board, St. Jude Walk Run Committee, the Doula Foundation Board of Directors, and an active board member, deacon, and musician at her church. And her most important job above all others is motherhood. We just saw Elizabeth have a new baby, and we got to see a little baby picture of her chunky little cutie pie. She and her husband, Justin, have 2 young boys, and they enjoy spending precious time together, traveling and entertaining family and friends. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you for the lovely introduction. So now I'm going to, bear with me guys, I'm going to switch this over to share my screen and get where we need to go. And this is the first time I've done it this way, so I appreciate your patience while we do that. Okay. Can everyone see myself and the presentation slide? Does everything look okay, Katie?
Looks good.
Okay, excellent. So today we're discussing strategies for successful interviewing, and recruitment and hiring, it never ceases to be a dull topic in our business environment. So in my strategy today, I wanted to try and cover as much as I can with you regarding interviewing, but that kind of really is connected in a way as well to your overall hiring process. So I want to start with a little bit of input on recruitment, kind of work our way into interviewing, and of course discuss some of those key things that I hear all the time, which are what can I and can't I ask. So I do have some material on that we're going to cover. The material that I have today is generally for a 2-hour training, so I have really done my best to try and cut it down, and hopefully we can really get down to the things that matter to you all that are here today. So that is my goal. So with that, before I dive in, I would love to know if we could get our poll started, have just a few questions for the group, just to get a sense of what you're looking at in terms of your hiring needs. So how many employees do you have, or does your company have? And some of you may be entrepreneurial and may not have employees yet.
We have a pretty small group here today, so it looks like we're really varied though. Got a self-employed solopreneur out there.
Okay, and actually, I'm not sure I can see the results.
I'm gonna share them.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, so varied, that's good. So there are, the approach is still the same, regardless of how many employees you have. So it's relevant to everyone. Let's see what the results of the next question are. And I believe we had set it up.
So what type of positions, current or future, will you be hiring for?
And just answer to the best of your ability. And perhaps there's more than one type of position, but maybe what most commonly your needs are. We understand that these types of positions apply to all organizations, but if you're small. Okay, so we have mid-level, entry to mid-level. So you've got a lot of different areas of the labor force, and that's kind of why we ask these questions, is what labor part of the labor pool are you trying to tap into? Let's go ahead into do we have one more, I think?
Yeah, one more for right now, and then we have
Okay.
one for later. There you go. Okay, there.
Okay. So generally everybody is a little bit familiar and has either participated in that process and has something in place. So I will take note of that as we kind of move forward. And again, the reason that those questions are asked is it affects what approach we take with recruitment and where we advertise. It affects the different levels of compliance that we're subject to.
Did we just lose Elizabeth?
I think she froze up. Hopefully it'll.
Well, and thank you for joining us for our thing today. No. She might have to log out and log back in. Apologize for the delay, everyone. Stick with us. She will be back.
Got it.
Okay, I'm back.
Yes. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay. So I don't know where I lost you. So I'm going to talk about recruitment for a moment, and then we're going to move on to hiring and interviewing. So right now, we've had a major gap in employment, and that is for basically anyone who may be in the labor, the blue collar area or the labor force where they're earning less than $30,000 a year. And those unemployment benefits that were made available via the federal government and the state government, half of that benefit is going to end, which will help us out in that area of the labor force with recruitment. It's really, really tough right now for some employers to hire. That's why you're seeing it. You walk into Chipotle and it's like order on your app only because of staffing shortages. It's just crazy right now. So my point is to say that will not last forever. You know, don't panic. Recruitment is a swinging pendulum when it comes to the labor force. So, but I do want to give a little word about recruitment sources. So Indeed is responsible and credited for at least almost 50% of hires that are made in our nation. So we, like as recruiters at HR Advantage, like to consider Indeed the necessary evil among other types of sources. But I just kind of wanted to put some of those recruitment sources out there, and that is up to you as to the type of position that you're hiring for, as whether or not you feel that's an appropriate source. But if you have the necessary budget, we would definitely suggest looking at some of those options. Indeed, LinkedIn, Google for Jobs is an up and comer that is seen as in competition with Indeed, and then we have other platforms such as ZipRecruiter. Again, it depends on how many positions that you project that you're going to really need to fill over the next year as to whether or not you need to start spending a budget on these types of things. But it is good to be thinking about. There are many other ways to recruit besides simply advertising. And I highly encourage, depending on the type of position, if you have entry-level positions that you feel like college grads would be a great fit for, get plugged in with the colleges. We're a college town. That's a huge resource for us. And they have departments that are dedicated to placement and career advancement for the college graduate. Networking is incredibly important, and it's a great way to recruit people. So I definitely believe in the organic power of networking and tapping into your trusted friends and colleagues to find good quality candidates, and do that before you absolutely have to have someone. That is my soapbox about recruitment, is always be recruiting. So, and with that, just wanted to mention, if you have the ability to provide bonuses or, some sort of positive way to get your employees to refer other people, that can be a really powerful tool in recruitment. And then if you are in a position where you are hiring a lot of individuals for perhaps the same type of position, that's where you kind of move into the effectiveness of maybe doing mass advertising, billboard, radio, TV, career fairs. But there's no one perfect way to recruit. I just wanted to kind of put some of those ideas out there for you all. So my goal today, in addition to just kind of talking about some strategies, is to definitely provide, without scaring anyone, a little bit of compliance is sprinkled out throughout this presentation. I work for an HR company, so we're HR people. We do pay attention to these sort of things, but the goal is never to scare anyone or make you, feel like your processes are going to get you in hot water. These are things, especially to be just aware of, and to understand that there are some underlying legalities that go along with practices related to recruitment, hiring, and all of the pieces that fall into that. So I'm going to be throughout this presentation referencing protected classes, and that goes back to the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And what that basically says is that it is federally illegal to disqualify an applicant because of their age, their nationality, their race or color, their status as pregnancy or not pregnant, their perceived disability, military status, or sex. And by sex, we mean gender, sexual orientation, as well as gender identity. So all of those things are covered under the Title VII Civil Rights Act of 1964. We call them protected classes. And why is this important? Because it has an effect on what you may or may not say in an interview or on a job application or even a job posting, can make it seem as though there's being some selectivity regarding those areas. So we just want to be aware of that. The other goal is to avoid like me approaches. And by that, we mean we all have a tendency many of us have a tendency to want to hire someone in the image of ourselves. And that's a very common tendency. And so someone who thinks, looks, or acts like us can inadvertently cause us to rule out more qualified candidates. So we want to be mindful of those things. Also, similar education background, similar leadership style, industry experience, career trajectory, race and gender. Those are all things that, whether intentional or unintentional, can, A, get us in hot water compliance wise, and B, it really narrows our pool of applicants and is not a best practice. So those are things I just wanted to bring to light. So why does that matter? Well, for one, when we have a more diverse workforce, it means that we have a higher productivity level. There's plenty of information out there to prove that. It generally means that when you have a more diverse workforce, you have a broader framework of knowledge, experiences, and points of view. And what that does is create more innovation. It creates more problem solving and collaboration, and just really strengthens your organization. So that is my plug for diversity. Again, those protected classes are age. Does anybody want to give a guess as to legally what ages are a protected class? So who is protected under the status of age? And I can't see the chat anymore, so it went away.
I'll look at it there, Elizabeth. We have a guess over 44.
Oh, that's close. I'm impressed, whoever you are. Okay, so yeah, so it's age 40 and up. So what that means is anyone who over the age of 40 falls within that protected class. And so we kind of need to be mindful that it's not always necessarily what we may perceive. And again, sex, on the basis of sex, that means gender, pregnancy, sexual orientation, gender identity, race and color, national origin, religion, or creed. And so these things may seem obvious, but they're not so obvious when we formulate interview questions and applications and job descriptions. So this is my little soapbox about protected classes as we kind of move forward. So job postings, things to avoid. So let's say you're posting a position on Indeed or LinkedIn and you're writing it out, looking for a young woman with lots of energy, seeking recent college grads. What's wrong with these? I need to get my chat box back. I'm going to do that. Okay. There's my chat box. Anybody want to give a guess as to what's wrong with these sentences that belong to various job postings? So what we have here are indications that we have a preference for women. We have a preference for college grads. We have a preference for men. Must be American. That is indicating nationality. So these are the types of things that fall into job postings that we sort of want to avoid. And again, that's for the purposes of being inclusive of all groups, but also making sure your applicant pool is something more diverse. So here's my plug for job descriptions. When I visit with a client about human resources and about what they have in place for human resources, we discuss most often at some point job descriptions and handbooks, and there is a reason for that. The job description, when written accurately and it accurately reflects the position that you are filling, does a number of things. If you give it a lot of thought and you make sure that it actually fits the position, that job description will be utilized to develop a job posting. Okay, so the job description has influence there. Also, once you interview that person and you're showing them your job description, the more accurate it is and reflective of the real duties of that position, the more you're going to align expectations in the very beginning with the candidate, and hopefully not either lose them because it didn't line up with expectations, or just have a general disconnect from the expectation versus what they feel they're going to do. So your job description is a hugely useful tool for a lot of reasons. So that is a conversation that I have not only with our HR clients, but also our recruitment clients. When they bring HR Advantage on to help them recruit for a position, the very first thing we look at is the job description. And I'll tell them, we're not going to start until you are 100% sure about what this position requires and what are the knowledge and skills and abilities of the position, and be very, very confident in that. And everything else kind of falls in place. Same thing for job applications, what to avoid, questions regarding military status, nationality, age. When did you graduate from high school? Why is that a problem? Can anybody tell me? What's wrong with that question? If I ask someone when they graduated from high school, then exactly, it reveals their age. So again, these are the things that slip in there that are not intentional, but sometimes we're trying to get to know someone. So these are just kind of things to be aware of. Workers' comp is a little bit different situation, but essentially what we don't want to do is to make it seem as though we didn't hire someone because they filed a work comp claim with another employer. So that's just a question we would want to avoid. So I hit recruitment pretty quickly there. I want to move on to the interview process. And again, at the end of this, if you would like to connect with me, I am happy to. And just so you all know, I'm going to send to the attendees, if I can get your email addresses or send them to our ladies here at SCORE, a general list of interview questions that you can kind of select from. It's an exhaustive list, so I wouldn't recommend doing all the questions in one interview, but I will submit some good interview questions for you guys to have in your toolkit. So preparing for the interview. So before we get to that point, you really want to do your homework. So let's say you've gone through the process, maybe you've pre-screened some individuals and you've set up some interviews now. There's different ways you can do an interview. So we have a question about retention and retention tools to employers. So yes, so I can touch on that a little bit and how some of these processes will help you with retention. One is, even though it sounds very nuts and bolts, the job description. Be clear about what type of position that you need to fill. Sometimes employers have growing pains and they create or they try to refill a position that really has changed. And they really need to take a look at that position and say, what's really happening? What is this person truly doing on a daily basis? Is that what we're putting out there for them when we have these interview conversations? So setting expectations accurately and not being afraid to communicate the pros and the cons of your organization, as well as the challenges to the job and the rewards of the job. Being transparent will certainly help you. I read a statistic not that long ago that basically said that a majority of employees will know whether or not they're going to stay with an organization in the first few weeks. So you really have a window there to make an impression, to follow through on it if you hire someone, and to, essentially do a little bit of handholding in the beginning to make sure that you didn't leave an important piece out that's important to that candidate. So here's some tools that we use to do that. Do your homework. If you are able, review the applicant's resume, review their application, and find out what you need to know about that person before they ever walk through the door. And that's giving them the respect that you're investing in time with them. And it is crucial, especially in today's recruitment world. Candidates have the upper hand. So be mindful that even if someone is not selected, you want them to have a positive experience throughout that process. So if you're not selecting them for an interview, but they've applied, try to respond and let them know. And then, be highly communicative with your candidates. So do your homework about the candidate, anticipate their questions if you can, and then get ready to have a conversation about the position and make sure that your job description is up to date and is available, and that you have it at that interview so that you can show them the nuts and bolts of the position. So in a successful interview, we're looking for the following things. Can they perform the duties of the job? So what are the essential duties, the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities that they need in order to, at a very minimum, perform the duties of the job? And those are important to know. At the next level, we want to assess their soft skills. So I'll just kind of give you guys a quick list of the most highly valued soft skills by employers. And for those of you who haven't had soft skills conversations, these are non-technical skills that relate to how you work. They have everything to do with how you interact with colleagues and other coworkers, how you problem solve, and how you manage work. So oftentimes soft skills cannot be taught, but they can be developed and they are transferable. Communication, problem solving, leadership, positive attitude, teamwork, work ethic, emotional intelligence, those are all qualities that we consider soft skills. And if you can lead that interview process in a way where you can uncover those, that will truly help you create a lasting match. So understanding their strengths and weaknesses, this is a great way these are great interview questions to ask. However, there are schools of thought, including, the Clifton Strengths process, that tells us that instead of trying to work on our weaknesses, on improving our weaknesses, we're better off spending our time utilizing and focusing on our strengths. So keep that in mind if you have questions in your interviews about strengths and weaknesses, that sometimes it's not the best goal to overcome the weaknesses and spend our time on that. But again, it goes back to, can they perform the essential duties of the job, and how are they going to be a best fit for that? Excuse me for a moment. Overcoming bias, I'm going to touch on that here in a moment, because that's a huge part of it. Asking the right questions. So have you all heard of the implicit bias or unconscious bias? I won't dive too deep into it, but essentially, unconscious bias is something that we all possess. Every person, every attendee of this workshop, we all have biases. No one is exempt from that, even if we think we are. And biases are formed when we make mental shortcuts and quick decisions. And what they do is they contribute to stereotypes about people. There's a really, really great tool that I would suggest every person take, and it's called the Implicit Association Test. It's provided by Harvard. And the Implicit Association Test is free. You can go and take it, and it reveals what your biases are. And this is a self-discovery tool as well. So it can be very shocking and upsetting if you take the test, because if you feel like, I don't have biases, I'm inclusive, I love diversity, I love all these things. This is a great way to understand your awareness so that whenever you conduct interviews or go about your business in life, that you can have that awareness along the way. Thank you so much for providing that. And Katie has just put the implicit bias test in the chat box. So how do we get the biases? News media, movies, family values that we're raised in, encounters that stuck with you, books, conversations from friends and relatives. What counts is that we all have it, and we all have different biases. And when we're aware of it, then we can move on from it and operate on a more fair basis. So the implicit bias test is one way. Another way to combat it in the interview process is to provide some structure to the interview. I'm a firm believer in a variety of different types of interviews. For this purpose, we're going to talk about a structured interview, but a lot of folks like to go to coffee or have a job audition where they give you a homework assignment that is related to the job, and how does the person respond to that. There's a whole different variety of interview structure, interview types. We're going to stick with the traditional one for today. And a structured interview is actually a great way to avoid bias. So what we mean is that you have the same kind of interview questions for everyone. And that way you're giving everyone an equal shot at responding to those questions. So we want to keep that job specific, and as well as another thing about bias that I always like to say, improving that situation also means that you're willing to call out bias when you see it. And this is why, if at all possible, having multiple members of the organization involved in the hiring process can really be helpful to that end. So before the interview, if you're talking about preparing questions, what kind of questions do I need to have? This is essential. Here are the essential things. We want to know about their job history. Tell us about that. Keep your questions about the position at hand, the past positions that they have, and their skill sets, and not so much about what their demographics may be. And that'll kind of keep you in the right place. So talking about past performance, describing the position that they're interviewing for, and letting them know what the expectation, the work hours, the travel, what's the dress code, what is the facility like in the environment. The more communicative you can be and conversational you can be, the better an interview is in revealing, the true intentions and whether or not that's a good fit. So during the interview, the first thing you want to do is provide some hospitality. So if you're having an on-site interview, take them on a tour. You can do that before or after, whatever you are feeling is going to break the ice a little better. It's okay to small talk, talk about the weather coming in, or, ask them how their day is, and, just make sure that you're keeping that kind of focused on, not finding out too much information about things that might get you in trouble. So breaking the ice can really be easy, but we want to make sure that we're kind of keeping that focus. So the other thing that's really important in the beginning is explain what's going to happen in the interview process. So, employers do interviews a million different ways. Just let them know what to expect. And you can even do that on the phone before they ever walk through the doors. But I highly suggest offering them coffee or water. Treat them like, you're stepping into their world and interviewing for a position with them, that it's a two-way street. I definitely also suggest asking candidate questions, anything that they have burning right off the bat. And then after that, you kind of want to stay in control of that process and make sure you hit all the points that you need. So you're describing the job and the organization. You want to describe what the typical week is like for a person in this role. What are the positive aspects of the role, and what do you perceive as challenges? There are ways that you can deliver this information without scaring someone off. And I think most of the time people appreciate transparency and honesty. So what that also allows you to do is to present a challenge and to see how that candidate will react, such as, something that's job related, and then that candidate has ability to respond and say, oh, well, I've had that before, and they show you how they can problem solve. Again, you want to have that job description available so that you can actually present that to them and provide them the essential functions of the job and say, can you perform the essential functions of this job with or without accommodations? That's a really, really important one. You also want to be able to describe any tools and resources available. So if they're coming into this position with some experience, tell them what kind of software you use or what equipment is going to be helping them perform these duties so that they know what kind of resources you've put in place as an employer. And cultivate interest. So in addition to lining out the job, we definitely want to let candidates know this is what separates you from all the other employers. How can you best cultivate their interest in your organization? Candidates they highly value compensation and benefits. That's never going to leave the list of the most highly valued things that candidates, they have to be paid, right? But they also value opportunities to advance within an organization, opportunities to learn and grow themselves in an organization. What kind of opportunities do you have in place to either farm up new hires into new opportunities or help them build their knowledge in that field and take something away that helps them in the long run? This is a huge retention tool. I cannot preach it enough. When I go to the other side and visit with candidates, with job candidates and seekers on how to interview and we talk a lot about self-development. What are your goals? How does that fit within the types of positions that you're pursuing? So if you can have that conversation as an employer, it's extremely powerful because they know that you're interested in more of what's in it for me, but how can we help grow you and benefit the company in the same way? So I cannot preach that enough, that that's a huge retention tool. And along with that goes a positive culture. So hopefully your organization is in a positive light with regard to culture, because that's a huge sell for candidates, and don't overlook it. They really want to know, am I going to enjoy walking into the office every day, or what am I going to be walking into? And get the buy-in from the candidate. Why did you choose to apply here? It's okay to ask that. Ask them, why us? And if you can get them to tell you why they chose to come to your interview, they're hearing themselves say that, and that may even get their buy-in even further into the process. So just a little bit about behavior-based interviewing. This is a really good tool for interviewing. What this is we call it the STAR method. It's the situation or task, action, and result. And it is a way to try and uncover what are the competencies that this candidate has. It has a lot to do with the soft skills. So the way that we do that is we ask a question. Tell me a time that you were presented with conflict with a coworker, and how did you react to that? What action did you take, and what was the result of your actions? And you can use this STAR method for a variety of different things. And that really reveals a lot about the candidate's ability to get along with others, to display problem solving, and to display that they can think conceptually about issues and things that go along in the workplace. So the ultimate goal is what competency does the candidate display when they provide you their answer? It's not about right or wrong answers. It's about how they approach the answer. Does anybody have questions about the STAR method? It's pretty common, but it's a great mindset to have when you're building interview questions to really understand kind of where people are coming from. Okay. So we have a couple of structured interview example questions. Tell me about a situation when your coworker strongly disagreed with you. You're asking them to describe the situation, or what the problem was, and what action that employee took, and what the actual result was. So just overall, in general, more about interview questions. Try your best to do listening. The more you can get them to talk instead of talking at the and instead of doing what I'm doing right now, it's just talking to you all, is to hear back from them and to try to get a sense and an understanding of where are they in this process, and help let that guide you. So lots of listening, probing, reflecting. But again, we do really want to cover the responsibilities of the position. How does that fit into their world based on the experience they have? How does it fit into their long-term plans? And then some of the nuts and bolts are important too. So you really want to ask the question, here are the days and times that this position is in work mode. Are you able to work these days and times? So those are kind of some big picture and some nuts and bolts that we want to have in that interview process. So make sure you take good notes whenever you're in an interview process. And another thing I want to kind of just add about that is try and summarize the experience. I wouldn't go into a full over recording things. There's a couple reasons for that. One, there's some compliance benefits to not overly writing down something they've told you, such as, I have 6 kids, I need flexibility. Look, you would write down, they need flexibility in their schedule, not they have 6 children. And again, these are little tools to help us kind of be mindful and unbiased when it comes to different life situations and people with different backgrounds and different statuses. So I definitely would encourage you to take notes, because we all know that once we've gone through 8 or 10 interviews, things can get really hectic, and you go, how did those go? So taking notes is really important. Back to those protected classes. I cannot stress it enough. Any questions that have to do or indicate the candidate's age, their sex, meaning their pregnancy status, their gender, their sexual orientation, their gender identity, their race or their color, their nationality, religion or creed, all of the things that you see there. So there are some pitfalls there. So I don't want to scare anyone. I just want you to be aware that these are there for a reason. And there's things that we can do to sort of not focus on those things, but focus on the quality of the candidate and the skills that they bring to the job at hand. We just want to keep that job focused. Is it relevant to the position? That's what you want to ask yourself each time. Okay, so now we have the little fun part, is name that illegal interview question. What nationality are you? Here's a better question. I know how official this sounds, but do you see the difference there? It's okay to require someone to be lawfully employable in the United States. You have to when you fill out an I-9. However, asking them what nationality is something that we want to try not to do. Have you ever been arrested? More and more municipalities, including Kansas City, so it's getting closer and closer to us, are banning the box. And what that means is that they are no longer allowing employers to ask about their conviction history. So as of now, it's okay to ask this, but there's a difference in the way that we're asking. This one's backwards. When did you graduate from high school? Again, that's the age thing, right? So a better question would be, have you completed a college course or a degree? Do you have a high school diploma or GED? So we're asking and making sure that they have the educational requirements that are in place for the position, but we're not indicating what their age is in the process. What are the names of your relatives? Oops, I skipped that. Sorry, guys. Have you ever worked under another name? So this has to do also with marital status. Instead of saying, are you married? You can say, if you're trying to make sure that you're doing a check or some background check, you can say, have you ever worked under another name, i.e. as a maiden name? Okay, so I think we have another poll, and we'll get to do this fun little, and then we'll kind of wrap things up because I know we only have a few more minutes. I would really love to take questions. And I know these things just are hard to squeeze into an hour. So if we have the poll available, I would love to use that. So which of the following interview questions is acceptable? You have an unusual accent. Where are you from? Will you be able to show a work visa, right? Do you have the legal right to work in the United States? Okay, great job. I realize some of these are pretty straightforward, but they're meant to get us thinking about how we present these things. Next one. Which of the following interview questions is acceptable? Have you ever filed a workers' comp claim? Are you able to perform the essential functions of the job? I noticed you walk with a limp. Are you sure you can do this job? Great question, Justin. I will answer that here in just a moment. Yes, correct. The main thing is that we want to identify if they can perform. These questions are centered around the job at hand and not the person. So that's the difference here. Have you ever been convicted of a crime or felony? If so, what was the disposition of the case? Have you ever been arrested? Are you related to that guy who was arrested on the news this morning? Excellent. Great job. So just a few more things, overemphasis on first impressions, having a tendency to want to hire someone that's like us. Sometimes someone walks through the door and have you guys seen that Super Bowl commercial from like 7 years ago? It's my absolute favorite commercial. It's the talking stain. Please tell me you've seen the talking stain. It's a Tide pen commercial, and the poor guy with his white shirt, he goes in, he's got a massive gross stain right on his shirt, and the interviewer is staring at him talking, and the whole time the stain is just yelling at him. So the point is, it's really hard to lose focus when something gets our attention or little details get in the way, but try to overcome those things. And in addition, try to overcome and be aware of our biases. So the confirmation bias is we tend to find evidence to support what we expect to see. So if one little thing gets under your skin, then you're looking for confirmation from that person that they're not the right person, they're not the right fit in the rest of the interview. But similarity bias, I like people who are like me. So you have someone walk in and immediately you establish that you are both St. Louis Cardinals fans. Well, my goodness, this guy's awesome. So those are the things we want to try to avoid, not that we want to ruin the opportunity to build rapport. And the halo and the horn effect. One quality or characteristic colors how you see that person, either positively or negatively. And also this happens a lot in certain areas where we are so desperate to fill positions that we just need somebody to fog up a mirror. And I highly discourage you from doing that. We understand the pressures are high, but just be aware if whether or not that is affecting your decision-making process. After the interview, definitely court your candidate. Let them know when they're going to hear from you, regardless of whether or not what the hiring decision is. Let them know that you will follow up, and do follow up. That's extremely important. Thank them for coming in, let them know what the next steps are. And that again has to do with the timeline. I'm going to meet with XYZ more candidates, or you can say, I'm going to have a couple of meetings and discuss this with management, and you will hear from me by X date. And definitely give them a tour. This really gives candidates a sense of your environment. And I cannot recommend that highly enough. And especially since we're climbing out of the COVID situation. Now, most everyone who wants to be vaccinated has access to a vaccine. So beforehand, we were discussing how do we do this in the COVID world, and even how do we navigate preferences of employers and candidates who are have different expectations and preferences regarding to masking. But I think we're kind of beyond that now. Let's see, we have just a few more things here. Write down your notes. If you have an opportunity to pull in another person who performs that position to do a second interview, a very short discussion, sometimes they can glean some information for you, or have others involved in that process can really help. Turn in your notes to HR if HR exists. Stay in contact with that candidate, give them a timeline, follow up and thank them. You never know if it's not a good position for them, you never know when they will refer a friend. So just keep those things in mind. So to open up to questions, Justin, your question about local companies that hire friends and family. So it's okay to hire friends and family. It's not illegal. And we suggest to employers that do that they consider, and some do have policies regarding hiring friends and family. So sometimes the rule can be the policies that family members cannot be direct supervisors of other family members. We call it like a nepotism policy, but then that has to do with relationships as well. So it's really kind of up to the employer. And so I do highly recommend that if you have a great workforce that loves where they're at and they can refer their friends, that can be a great thing. If they're not a great employee and they're a little bit toxic and they bring on someone else, they may end up taking that person with them when they leave out the door. So be aware of those things too. So independent contractors for booth rental for your salon. And that's a big topic. Just to give you a quick answer, there are some distinctive differences between independent contractors and W-2 earners, and they're very specific, and there's a lot of implications that go with that. So I would recommend looking into the Department of Labor's definition of independent contractor. If you like, I will email you after this and send you some resources to look at that. Because you have to be really careful, because if you are hiring someone as a 1099 independent contractor, but you are dictating their work hours, providing their equipment for them, there's 7 different factors actually, and then that could technically mean that they may be under a different classification. So that has a lot to do with obviously how you're going to interview that person. Other questions? It's 3:02. You guys are welcome to email me and pick my brain. I'm sorry that I couldn't hear your voices. I kind of like that. I wish I could hear your voices. So, well, thank you all so much for sitting in on this. And please do reach out to me if you have burning questions, and I will make sure I get you a great list of interview questions out to your group.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for presenting all that great information today. Mary will send out a follow-up email, I believe. We'll include your contact info in that. So if you folks have additional questions for Elizabeth, you can send those her way. Don't forget to head over to our website, swmissouri.score.org, and sign up for our next workshop on June 22nd, which is about blogging for search engine optimization. So. All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Mary, for all your help navigating Zoom webinar. And I hope we will see everybody in a few weeks.
Thank you.